Hi my friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Dee, aka the Messy Perfectionist. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Major Arcana. This is part 2 of my Introduction to Tarot series. If you have not yet watched the first part of this series, go ahead and click the card that I'll go ahead and put up there. Watch that first, and then you can go ahead and catch up with us in this next video. So today we're going to cover the Major Arcana, and that is the basic cards that are often referred to as the Fool's Journey. What does that mean? That is your walk through life, from infancy through death and rebirth or attaining enlightenment. First set of cards, 0 to 7, really represent your basic development, learning how to navigate life. Cards 8 through 14 represent your getting to know who you are in this life, the questioning universal truths and the norms of society, and seeing how all of those things fit in with your own being. And the last set of cards, cards 15 through 21, represent our higher self, that spiritual development that we have attained from our walk through life. All of these cards are going to have a meaning, but it's going to depend on the position of the cards to have that understanding. But today we're just going to go over the meanings of the cards a little bit. So again, the walk through life, your basic development, moving through your spiritual development. Today I'm going to be using the Gilded Tarot deck, and I'll be referencing this book. I have my own notes in here, and we will be starting with card number 0, which is the Fool. Here is the Fool, the person who is at the beginning of their journey, eager and ready to go. Maybe not looking where they're walking sometimes, just kind of going with that flow in complete ignorance at that time. The Fool lives in the moment. And the warning of this card is, to be aware of the carelessness. Don't, go la 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 la, happily jumping off of that cliff. With card number 1 is the Magician. And the Magician, unlike the Fool, he has mastered his skills. The Magician is awareness of cause and effect. It represents knowing how to navigate life. You are aware of the power that is within yourself and how that power impacts all of the things that are around you. The High Priestess, to me, really represents intuition. That inner knowing, even though we cannot explain it, using that intuitive knowing and translating it into action. When you draw this card, she may be trying to also tell you to be aware of standstill, not heeding that call, not doing what feels right to you in your heart, so that you can continue on with your growth on your journey. Number 3 is the Empress, and she is the mother of intuition and creation brought into physical form. She has evolved from the High Priestess, who took that intuitive knowing and put it into action and brought those things into a physical reality. The message of this card, if you draw it, is to be aware that balance. Do not go to the extremes and become obsessive about whatever it is, to the loss of all other responsibilities in your life. Number 4 is the Emperor. If the Empress is the mother, the Emperor is the father. He is stability, creating that environment around you so that you have a healthy foundation which to build upon. The thing with him, when you draw him, is to also be aware of rigidity. Don't be so strict on what you believe the rules of your process should be that your intuitive knowing kind of takes a wayside, and you kind of lose that inspiration and intuitive knowing that you started with in the beginning before you entered this venture or journey that you decided to go on. Number 5 is the Hierophant. And with that is very similar in that whenever I get the Hierophant, I always see a very rigid person in power, religiously or politically, just that extreme in nature that can kind of take over the ego self that can become. In his best, he is wisdom and achievement, passing down the knowledge of the physical and the spiritual realms to help us grow on our path. But as I said before, the warning to heed of this upon draw, don't follow anything blindly. Blind faith is not healthy. question things healthfully, stand in your truth, and just make sure that all of your beliefs in your system are your truth, that it feels right and resonates within you. Number 6 is the Lovers. The older meaning of this card really represented a love triangle and the choice. It's also referred to in some decks as the choice. I've only ever seen it as a Lovers, but I have read that before. And that may not be a choice between lovers, but it's a choice that you have to make within your life by making sound choices and considering all facets before committing to a relationship or a project, those major decisions that can come about. So the warning of this card is to not make a choice based on, one thing being great above all else. The thing that comes to mind in relationship, and of course this is the Lovers, so I feel like it's appropriate. You're in a relationship with somebody. It's not healthy, but there's that one thing that keeps you there. Is that one thing enough? Is that really enough? You know the answer in your core. That could be a possible choice. Number 7 is the Chariot. So when you look upon this card, this queen looks very victorious on her chariot. However, if you notice, there are not wheels on this chariot. She is fixed in place by sphinxes. The card really represents that victory, but there are things that still need to be learned on this journey of life. Achieving your goal by just strict control of will alone over the situation is probably not going to be enough to reach that fulfillment. What comes to mind is, that person that is extremely diligent with their work. They're just a workaholic. They have made it to the top. They have made it to be boss of that company, but they never have time with their family and they don't feel fulfilled still, even though they may be financially fulfilled. There's something still lacking. So it's definitely a victory, but at what cost? So drawing this card asks you to question what is the cost to the venture? Is it helping you move forward, or is it keeping you at a standstill? And have you won this victory with just the sheer will and nothing else? Number 8 is Strength. And just as the name implies and the image on the card, it is the reminder that you are stronger than you think you are. You have more inner strength than you give yourself credit for, or depending, again, remember positions, if it's in the past, future, okay? Really kind of the message of this card is to embrace that inner strength, have confidence in yourself and your decision-making ability, and that when you listen to your inner knowing, you will be on the right path. And the extreme of this card is do not let your basic desires overcome you, and do not deny your own power. Oh, one of my favorite cards, this is number 9, and he is the Hermit. So we've gone through our journey exploring who we are, trying to master the skills of our environment and our world socially. We have made some victories, maybe not totally feeling fulfilled. There's still something to be learned from those situations. So now you have the Hermit, and the Hermit is wisdom from seeking time alone within ourselves to access that intuitive knowing and find out what's next for us, to ponder the situation at hand and figure out what is or was missing, if anything at all. I really see this card as that realization for inner reflection in our lives and how important that can be. I feel like the Hermit is such an important card. It also represents that in that knowing, you earn and build that confidence within yourself that maybe you did lack before, that confidence that you do have the answers within to make those decisions, to make those healthy choices in your life. And it doesn't matter about what others think, and don't rely on others' opinions of what they think your life should or should not look like. Because after all, it's your life, not theirs. Next we have the Wheel of Fortune. This card kind of continues on as the Hermit has explored his inner self and learning his self-realization. This card is telling us to look at those uncertainties of the life cycles. It is our view of our situation, whether we view something good or if we view it as bad. And with that said, A lot of times situations viewed as good or bad is just how our focus is perceived on that, right? So are you taking the value of the lessons of what you have learned through your life? Why do you view it good? Why do you view it bad? What is your own self-realization? And also to remember not to blame the world or everyone else for your life being perceived as poorly based on your own decisions. We all make choices, and a lot of times those choices are going to lead us through those good or bad. I'm not saying that there are not situations that are out of our control. Of course there are. There are many. I have had many myself. And when you're going through those times, it's not exactly the time to, at the moment it happens, to be like, oh, well, this is so wonderful. I have this wonderful lesson that I've learned from it. No, it's a process, right? When we go through things, the message is to not stay in that place of pity. Learn from it, move forward, and go on. Recall that strength, that inner confidence that you have learned along the way, and the wisdom that you have gained from that time in self-reflection, however you have done it. Number 9, justice. Justice is balance. She's karma. She is telling you that you make your own future. She is telling you to go ahead and question why something is happening to you, just as we have discussed before. Don't wallow in that self-pity or feeling over, terrible guilt over, God, I made that stupid choice. And take what you have learned from that situation and just move forward. Learn from any mistakes, learn from your victories, and just move forward and try to maintain that balance as much as you can. Don't give way to despondency. Just remember to go ahead and make those choices that are going to lead you to a happier life, to that healthier path in your life. Number 12 is the Hanged Man. Probably one of my most favorite cards. The Hanged Man resembles the Fool. He is someone who can behave unorthodoxly, if that's a word. Sorry. I say normal, the universal norms of society. He is really someone who knows who he is. He has gone through those difficult experiences and gains the wisdom from those experiences, and he is going to go to the beat of his own drum. The only heed on this is that be aware of rationalizing, say, bizarre or bad behavior, saying, oh, well, that's just who I am, when you really need to probably be asking yourself, is it really, and should that be acceptable, and do other people need to put up with that if it's bad behavior? We all know that person who is like that horrible boss or horrible person that we may work with, or just the incessant gossip, and you're just kind of like, you will often hear things like, that's just who they are. Whether that's true or not, that's not your problem. So what this is questioning is your behavior really truth to who you are, or is it just something to get a reaction out of others? Something to else ponder. He also represents knowing when to sacrifice. Even if your actions can feel out of sync with others or not in alignment with their own beliefs, don't sacrifice your true being to satisfy others. Number 13, death. I know in the introduction part 1 that I did touch on the death card a little bit, and its misrepresentation oftentimes in movies that say, oh my God, somebody draws the death card and it just means a physical death. It does not mean a physical death. Death can be the death of an old mindset or belief system. So think about the journey of the Fool, which we have gone on so far. All of that basic development, all of the getting to know who we are, questioning those things, learning who we are, and maybe there's something that you realized is not your truth. There is going to be a death you have to pass through, right? It's not easy. Change is never easy, but almost always necessary. Don't be afraid of that change. Though spiritual growth can bring pain, it's always worth it to stand in that confidence and in your truth, and not trying to adhere to what somebody else wants to mold you into, or what you think someone or the world wants to mold you into. Anyone wanting to continue on their journey needs this, needs that depth of mindset if you've been holding back. Now we've got number 14, which is Temporis. Temporis really represents balance. She is that of moderation and living harmoniously within the world around us. We have gone through those difficult times and that self-exploration, and now we feel content. That ease and balance of the physical, the spiritual, the mind, all of those things feel like we're moving in the flow of life. And in the card, she is, draining her cup, having faith that it will be filled again. And that is such a powerful image of this card. That confidence in yourself. Be aware of intemperance in behavior and extremes in your life. And don't let fear stop you from taking action in your life. Number 15, the devil. If Temperance is moderation and that of balance, he represents the opposite extreme in excess in everything. That is in life or behavior. He is the fanatic, the one that does what he wants with no thought of how it will impact himself and others in his path. He is what happens through that extreme in behavior when our life goes very out of balance. So think of drug addict, perhaps, a really bad alcoholic, a sex addict. It could be any of those extremes. Presents an unbalanced life. On the other hand, he can also represent the opposite of that, in that you're so afraid to give in to any pleasures or joy of life for fear of addiction or extremes, or just going against some rigid belief system that you don't partake in joys in your life. So you have to remember, you have gone through this journey thus far, of the Fool's journey, right? If you're at that place where you have done that self-exploration, remember to have joy and fun. And again, be yourself. The message is, don't let anything in your life you believe or practice overshadow all other rationale. That's how we lead to an unbalanced mindset and life. Ooh, another tough card, 16, the Tower. So what is the Tower? Ooh, I used to get this card a lot in the midst of change. The Tower represents getting hit by that lightning bolt of truth. The Tower has come crashing down because we didn't have that set foundation underneath us to begin with. It's a really hard to go through card. But again, the shattering of that old way of thinking has happened from that symbolic lightning bolt of truth on the card. And the knowing that when you begin to rebuild, you will have a much stronger foundation on which to grow from. The card also reminds you to react accordingly to your situations. If you overreact to simple, I shouldn't say simple, if you overreact to small things that happen in your life, how are you going to be when big things happen? So the bad morning, you stub your toe. Do you let that whole day be ruined because you stubbed your toe? Or do you say, I stubbed my toe, it hurts, I'm gonna curse for a minute, and then I'm gonna let that shit go, and I'm just gonna move on. So that's your kind of choice to make. Number 17, the Star. Star really represents peace, calm, hope. She's the sister to Temperance. She is that replenished faith in the order and flow of life that maybe became out of balance between going through the extremes of the devil and then being hit by that lightning bolt of truth and the tower come crashing down and you've had to rebuild. And she is hope for things to be better. Don't give in to despair. She is the unity of thought and spirit. 18 is the Moon. I love this card so much. Moon really represents intuition. When I draw this card, it's saying pay close attention to that intuition. Do not be afraid of that I'm not really sure if this is what I'm seeing, because by the light of the moon, the picture isn't really so clear. You have that inkling, that feeling, follow your gut. That's what I see when I see the moon. Follow your gut and don't be afraid, even if you don't see the clarity of the entire picture right before you. Don't be so fearful of not seeing that clarity that you stand in stagnation and do nothing, or you do something even worse and go against that grain. That never seems to end well. You may not be able to see that picture clearly yet, but you just know. You don't know why you know, but you just know. Number 19, the Sun. The Sun is that card of happiness. We have listened to our intuitive knowing. We have gone through the hardships, and now is the time for us just to experience that wonderful, joyful feeling within our life now. Be aware of not enjoying that. If you've had a difficult life, if you've had difficult times, sometimes we almost shy away from those things that can bring us that joy and happiness, for fear of everything falling apart again, for fear of the tower, come crashing down. So just remember to understand yourself and that knowing of who you are and being good with that, and to allow yourself to experience that joy. Don't fight it and don't overanalyze it. 20, Judgment. We're getting there, guys. I'm trying to move through this as quick as possible. Oh, Judgment tells us we are being called to do something. Maybe once again, we might not want to heed the call, but it's really necessary to face it with courage and action for us to progress on our spiritual growth at this point in our lives. This may sound like other ones, but isn't that life? Isn't that life that we go through in cycles? And sometimes what goes around comes back around, and we have to reevaluate things. I really think this card represents growth in so many ways. Already gone through those difficult times. You already know how to navigate those rough waters. Have all of that information that you have taken from in the past and move forward with that, knowing that what this call is, what this inner feeling is, whatever this thing you're being called to is going to bring you a higher level of either enlightenment or joy or happiness in your life. Don't ignore the call because you're being fearful of it. Push your boundaries. Do those things that maybe would be good for you, but you're afraid to start it for whatever reason, whether it's your mind or your body or whatever it is. Don't be fearful. You have been there, done that. You can do it again. Know that you are just going to continue to grow, and all change is hard but necessary. And as the Fool has reached the end of his journey, so have we at the last card, which is 21, the World. This is a message of completion. You have attained the most enlightenment that you can from the choice that you have made or the journey that you have gone on at the moment. You are going with the flow of that choice or life, in this case, if we're talking the journey of the Fool, and healthfully moving with that flow of life in a balanced, joyful way. It's that forward movement that brings unity of consciousness and the physical realm, brings us that growth and contentment. Be aware of that false sense of security. Remember that each experience keeps us moving forward. Everything we have gone through so far propels us forward and lets us reach that next step, that next level of our life. And celebrate your accomplishments. It has been a great ordeal to have come this far on the journey. The World represents that achieving of that balance of nature. So I know that was just a run through of the cards as quick as I could, of the Major Arcana and of the Fool's journey, which is really all of our journey, right? And I hope you can see the kind of correlation with the cards 0 to 21. Kind of going through this way I thought was kind of neat, because you can kind of see, if you're looking at a movie and you see that person's journey from the beginning to the end of life, and all of those things that we face and all of the things that we look to achieve and the difficulties that we have gone through, they all are part of us. It all makes us who we are. So that's all I'm going to cover for this video. So this was part 2. The next part will be the minor arcana that we will go through. Those are the numerical cards. And I'm not sure if I'm going to throw the court cards in those in there as well at the same video, or if I will break that out. I will have to see how this goes. This has been a lot more of a project than I actually thought it would be, because it's just different when you're reading and it's in the flow, and you know, this is kind of just going through the meanings, and I'm just trying to kind of give that basic knowledge of what it is for maybe a beginner who just is like, what is all this stuff? So I hope that you have enjoyed this and it hasn't been too boring or overwhelming, or, you know, I don't want that. I really appreciate everybody who has subscribed and is watching my channel. I'm really enjoying making content for you guys, and I'm just doing what feels right for me. I will have an update hopefully shortly on my own health journey, but I should have an update soon. Other than that, I have been calling in the fall, as you can see from behind me. Happy September. My little lights, and I made my little Halloween bouquet back here. And I don't care. I don't care that I started in August. I'm over the heat, and I just really love the fall, and I love all the smells, and it's just that beginning time of year that I feel like just makes me feel alive. It's just a great time of year. I love from September through December, in the way of a mindset that in itself has its cycle, right? It's the end of the year, it's the end of the year's cycle, and kind of gives us that fresh start, that fresh perspective. And maybe we can talk a little bit more about that too, and how a good way for setting New Year, I don't say resolutions at all, New Year reflections are going. So again, thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone is doing well out there, and if you have not done so, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell so you can stay up to date, and hopefully I'll have next part of this series done fairly quickly. I say fairly quickly, let's say within the next couple of weeks or month. I'm not sure yet, so be patient with me, guys. So, and I will be seeing you later. Have a great night, and be well. Bye-bye.